All right, back once again, the Renegade Master, on the Waterford FC podcast, and my guest at this time is Assistant Manager Danny Ventre. Danny, how are you?
Great, Tony. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. I'm doing okay. It's nice to sit down and have a chat because we haven't done this properly yet.
Yeah.
So I suppose I'll ask you the same question that I asked John when I recorded his episode. And how are you settling into Waterford? How are you enjoying it here, the city and the club?
That's brilliant. Just to echo what John said, like the staff, Richie, Sandra, Amy, yourself, the extended staff in and around the club they can't do enough for us, to be honest, and we've settled in really well. And I'd like to thank them for that, because it's not always easy going into a new place, but as I say, they can't do enough for us, and it's still going, they still want to help as much as possible, which is great to see. So as I say, thank you to yourself and them.
Yeah, listen, everyone, obviously, when we found out you guys were coming, very excited and obviously want to give you as much support as possible. And I feel like the fans are doing the exact same. Do you feel that warmth and that love from the fans?
Yeah. Like I say, I think in one of the interviews I've said I call them supporters, because I believe that they should support us when at times we may not do so well, and then when we are doing so well, they can carry on that support, which has been brilliant from what I've seen up to now. And say when we did come over and we caught the game, the Shelbourne game, it was probably on Friday, Monday weekend. So the fans that they did get up to the Monday game against Shells, that was admirable. They were brilliant. They were loud in voice, and they backed the team, and the team come away from a 1-0 win. So they had the part to play, and they have been since the 3 games that we've had so far.
You're no stranger to the Irish League, of course. How different do you see it on the coaching side rather than the playing side?
Yeah, it is a tad different. You would like to be in the middle of that pitch sometimes, and you're screaming, you're bawling sometimes from the side of the pitch because you're with the players, you're with the supporters, and you're doing everything to get that win. One of the things that has struck me is that all the officials that we meet before and after the game, now there's the familiar faces and they still know my name, so I've probably been in many of their books down the years, and it's good to catch up with them really. But I think the difference in terms of the game, I think the players are a lot fitter, as opposed to 10-15 years ago. There's probably a bit more of a tactical element to it, and there's always been that technical player within Ireland. You see a lot of them go over the water and be successful. That's still there, but as I say, in terms of the teams are more coached now, and that shows in how close the league is.
It seems strange. We're pretty much the same age, myself and yourself, and it seems strange to sit here and see you as a young person, because I see myself as a young person, even though I'm probably not, and hear you say 10 or 15 years ago, I'm going, that doesn't sound right, but it is.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe the difference is it's a full-time professional league now in the Premier Division rather than before?
Yeah, as I say, when I was playing, you probably only there was 12 teams in the league at the time, so maybe 8 of them would have been in and around full time, maybe some bit hybrid, three nights a week. But yeah, you can see, as I say, when you are full time, the fitness, the speed of the game goes up, and that's probably what we're seeing now at the moment.
I suppose we should maybe talk about your playing career. You started at Chester City, am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I was a scholar there. Yeah.
How did you find that? Not too far from home. I actually was in Liverpool myself last weekend, and I stayed in Chester, so it's not
lovely.
Too far
Yeah. So I was in and out of academies growing up, kind of getting trials here and there. I was never lucky enough to actually stick into a club early on to get that coaching. I was always in Liverpool schoolboys, and then when I was 15, 16, I ended up getting a scholarship and apprenticeship at Chester. At that time, it was like a 3-year apprenticeship.
Okay.
I had 2 former first team managers in Mark Wright and Ian Rush, so standards from them would filter down into the under 18s, and then as I grew up through my apprenticeship, I started to train in and around the first team. I never actually made a first team appearance, so having them to look up to as a young lad, you think, wow.
I was going to say, we can't skate over this now, because a former Liverpool club captain in Mark Wright and Liverpool's all-time leading goal scorer in Ian Rush, I mean, literally 2 of the probably best people you could learn from, whether you're Liverpoolian or not.
You could too. I don't think Mark Wright was too fond of me.
Right.
Used to call me a scally here and there. I was probably not one of the best behaved scholars, but I had a little bit of cheekiness and a bit of character about me, but did invite me to train with the first team quite often enough. Ian Rush the same. I did break his toe in one of the training sessions with him. Unfortunately stood on his toe because he had them lovely new Nike boots that he was still sponsored by. But yeah, he was quite fond of me as a young lad, and he wanted to give me a professional contract, and then sent me out on loan, and then I come back, he'd been sacked, and I didn't sign the deal in the end, and then I fell out of there and ended up signing for a manager I'm currently working with now.
Yeah, so is that your first time that you met each other, or did you know each other previously?
No.
Was he aware of you?
John?
Yeah,
he was very much aware of me.
Okay.
So my dad used to play with John for Morecambe. So when I was a young boy, I always used to want to watch my dad play. So at the time, they were travelling up and down in a minibus. It wouldn't be no back seats, right. Just benches. So there was a good group of them going up from Liverpool, and unfortunately, one day after the game, I think they might have won the game actually, because they were having a few drinks in the back of the bus. Pulls into the service as one of the drivers, who's a very good friend of John and my dad now. Slammed on the brakes, no ABS then, so the van just slides across, and unfortunately a man named John Coleman fell on me and broke my arm in 3 places.
Lovely. That was your childhood experience. So John basically knows you since you're a young lad, and vice versa as well. Yeah. So it must be amazing. Obviously, well, first of all, I suppose talk about what it was like then to sign for him, and he's your manager, but he's your dad's mate.
Yeah. I don't know, just obviously coming away from Chester and then going into Accrington. Accrington had just gone into full-time football. Mm-hmm. And then, you've heard John's interview as he has the local lads sort of saying and around the club, good young lads who wants to progress through. And okay, Liverpool's not that quite local to Accrington, but there was a core group of Liverpool lads going up there, and then to take a couple of young lads like myself and the current England assistant manager now, Anthony Barry at the time, he was one of a couple that ended up going into Accrington for that first full-time season. So it was brilliant just to get in there, and it was probably the best 2 years of my life in terms of football and learning and becoming like an adult in the game. I was going to say, I would imagine John had a way of dealing with you that Mark Wright maybe didn't. Yeah, just obviously understands the young lads and how we are, and he's been one of the young lads who always wants to play professional football himself, so he was familiar with us in that way. So he'd always noticed what comes with young lads is some naivety and mistakes at times, but we didn't half learn a lot. And we spoke recently about the team or the squad he had over those 2 years, how many of them are actually coaching in the game now. Mm. So that's credit to John and Jimmy Bell, who was assistant, of the effect and how they steered our love for the game to stay in it this long. So there must be 7 or 8 lads from over that 2 years, or probably more actually. Yeah. That are still involved in the game. It's incredible. I obviously knew you played under John, but I didn't know you go back as far as being a little lad and all that kind of stuff. It's a great story. So how does it come about then that obviously you were doing a bit of scouting together, but how does it come about then that you then become his assistant? Well, we've always kept in touch. We've got the same ideas on the game, the way we think it should be played, and then there was just because at the moment I'd come out of Bristol Rovers, John had come out of Accrington, so as again both know Paul Cook mutually. Mm-hmm. Invited us in to and we respect our opinion on the game and we know how he wants to play. So I think it was just great that he could get us in, keep us within the game, keep us our noses in the game, and he was asking our opinion on players, so he was just asking us to go out and get an eye on some players who they were looking to sign, because as I say, we know what type of player he wants. I've played for him, knows his system, and knows the type of profile of player that he was looking for. So obviously me and John, we were going out to games together, so we would have long conversations in the car. So wherever we were going, it was generally only down the north of England anyway, so about an hour or 2 in the car each way. You talk about so much. I think once an opportunity come in, and we were doing that for probably maybe 9 months, and an opportunity like this come up, it was always on John's mind, thankfully, that if he did get the job, that I'd come with him, which is I'm so thankful for, because to learn off someone like John, you know, his wealth of experience, I can only take positives from that.
Well, something I've noticed. I notice little things about people and stuff all the time. But I noticed you're the one that seems to be on the line, and John sits in the dugout.
Yeah, I don't know what that. I said to John in the first game, I said, "Go and get yourself up there, you're the front of it." And he said, "No, go on, off you go. You know, I want you to lead a lot of this." And getting that off a manager is worth its weight in gold. Like you don't usually get that. You know, we had a little chat before we actually joined, and I said, "What do you want me to do here?" And he said, "I want you to lead most of it." So he's, you know, the onus is not just on me, but to give me that license to go and express myself. And I will probably make mistakes in that, and that's what he's there for. He's going to guide me. Because I said, so if I can't take anything from his experience in the game, then there's something wrong. But you know, to be never, you know, he'll never come after me and say, "Oh, he'll guide me in the right way." And as I say, I'm really appreciative of that. So, you know, if it's working and I can still be up there and be maybe that energy on the sideline when he does stand up on the pitch, the players know it's him standing up and not me all the time. So, you know, sometimes you can be white noise if you're there all the time. So hopefully if and when he does have to stand up, you know, the players know. You'll be able to feel him.
Yeah, no, the reason it even stood out to me in the first place is I went, this is a real partnership here. The two lads are in it together. You know, it's not just a token thing where, oh, you're working with me here or there, you're coming with me. It seems to be a real partnership between the two of you.
Obviously, like, even when I've been out the game or whatever, and I've gone to watch John when he's in management for Gillingham or Accrington down the years, his outside, well, not say his outside staff, his inner staff are always leading the line with him in the background. So, you know, that's the trust he's got in people. You know, you can't buy that sometimes.
Yeah, it seems to be very much a kind of a people-led thing on the pitch and off the pitch for John, and I really admire that. Talk to me though about your initial move to Ireland as a player. How does that come about?
So at Accrington at the time, so this is my second year now. We just won promotion from the National League, so we went into League 2 then. Still a young lad. I was 19, 20. I was in and out. Unfortunately for me, our right back, well, position I was in was the captain of the team, so I was learning from him. I was getting minutes here and there, and then I managed to get into the team. I broke my leg on Boxing Day against Derry, so I then had a little bit out of the game, 3 months, finished the season off, I think 3 or 4 games, what it is, and then it come to John releasing me, which now when you look back, was probably how I've ended up in this position now. In you know, you don't think at that time, you don't get thinking, oh, I've been released, I'm gutted there. But he said to me, you need to go and play men's football. So, you know, in hindsight, it was absolutely the right thing for them to do. I did go and get men's football, which Paul Cook at the time was already in Sligo. So he invited me to come over, and how it ended up, it was actually again a game at Shelbourne, but they were playing Shamrock Rovers at Tolka Park, Sligo, and I took the game in, and then that was it. 6.5 years later, that's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, you did a good stint in Sligo.
Yeah.
Is there still a bit of your heart there? Will it be difficult?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my affiliation with the club, you know, that'll never go away. It was my second home. John alluded to it before, the people were fantastic, very similar people to here. There's a lot of similarities to the place in terms of the beaches and stuff, and like a nice little close-knit village. Everyone kind of knows everyone. They couldn't have made me, you know, more welcome. The club at the time was probably in a little bit of a similar situation as well, albeit there was 12 teams in the league at that time. And then, you know, within a year or two, we grew and we ended up taking over basically the League of Ireland, and then we went on 3 or 4 good FAI Cup runs, which were successful. Yeah,
you really had I don't want to say anything, but like kind of the glory years of Sligo. You had a really good time there. Was it difficult then to move to Derry afterwards?
I always enjoyed playing up at the Brandywell. Because basically always win there.
Yeah.
But there was always a feeling that I got from there when I went there. So it was so my last year at Sligo, I'd had a fractured my leg again. So I was in and out.
Same leg?
No, actually no, it wasn't. It was another one. But I had a stress fracture in my leg, so I had 12 weeks out. Come back, got a bang on it again, and I had another 12 weeks out. But I ended up finishing the season on the FAI Cup again. So that was my last game for Sligo at the time. And then while I was out injured, I needed to play some minutes. So Roddy Collins was at Monaghan at the time, I think, was phoning me and was like, do you want to go and play some games for me? And I was like, to be honest, Roddy, I'd rather go back to Liverpool. No disrespect, I'd rather go home. Lo and behold, he gets the job up in Derry, who are a strong Premier Division team. So he phones me. Sligo had offered me a deal, then for some reason or whatever, they pulled it away. And I ended up going up to Derry, and I had a year there, and I ended up playing a good few games with them. My last game for them was another FAI Cup final, which unfortunately we lost. But yeah, it was good. It was a good year there. Different to what I'd experienced with Sligo, but as I say, a good experience nonetheless.
This is it. Like, a lot of people even talk fans-wise about, because although we're the same country, you are crossing a border that is supposedly there and stuff like that. Did you find a difference between playing up north and playing west, or did it seem like different culturally even?
No, not really, because the Brandywell's obviously in the Irish side. So, there was no way I was ever going to mention Londonderry. The lads there would even raise an eyebrow if you even did that. But being a Scouser, the Irish love the Scousers, so I fitted in well. I actually loved the place, to be fair. It was great, but I was commuting it a couple of times a week, so I was staying in Sligo as well.
Were you?
I still had me place in Sligo, so I was commuting, and Roddy was good like that.
So did it almost feel like a homecoming coming back to work in Ireland, or is it a completely culture shock being so far south now for you?
No, it was like Ireland's just. I have got business here, so I'm always here, but coming back into the football would be it's kind of like I want to get after this now in terms of the coaching side. I've probably done what I could as a player. It's quite successful here, and I'd love to emulate that as a coach and get Waterford as successful as we can while I'm here.
I'm sure there's some thinking behind that as well, having had such a successful playing career here, that you can bring it. What was your impressions of, not necessarily just Waterford as a place and the team and stuff like that, but just the players itself, the group of players that were gathered here, obviously already here upon your arrival?
I think from when we were on the outside and we were looking at the games just before we come in, you could see the work they were putting into games, and that was something to work with. We weren't coming somewhere thinking, we've got to scrape these off the floor here, because credit to Matt Lawler and Matt Craddock, them 3 games that they had them for, they put a lot of work into them, so there was a good foundation for us to build upon that. And to be fair, the lads have took that in the strides, and we got a win in our first game, and then we were beaten by the biggest team in the country in terms of finances and stuff, and resources and the squad that they've got. But we're going into every game knowing that we're going to give teams a good challenge, and we're going to win the game. So having that foundation, like I said, of the resilience they had and the work rate and the attitude towards wanting to work, was fantastic for us. As
a coaching staff as well, listen, obviously Laws and Matt Craddock did an amazing job to turn them around from where everything was for us. But as a coaching staff, do you watch those games, like the Shells game, for example, that you first came to watch live? Do you look at that and go, okay, they're doing a great job, but I think we can kind of get our philosophy across to these group of players?
Yeah, absolutely. No disrespect to them games, but I'm not coming here saying we want to sit in like they were in them 3 games. They were sitting in and they were trying to get nick a point here and there. But when you look at it, they've gone to Dublin, I think, on 3 occasions and got 9 points on the back of sitting in. But we want to go and play football on the front foot. We want to go and get after teams. We want to go and take the game to teams. So we want football that's going to get you on off your seat. There might be some goals either end, but it's going to be an exciting team full of energy, and that's what we want to build upon with the foundation that the lads got it in terms of the resilience.
I think a lot of the talk was when we were going through those interim games, I call them, obviously getting wins and stuff like that, and a lot of the fans and stuff, and even my own family that are fans and friends, we were talking, and like, no, this is not sustainable on the pitch or for our nerves either. None of us were watching them, anxiety ridden. But if we take the Pats game, which would have been, last Friday as this is recorded, like I'm watching that, I couldn't travel to the game, I watched it live on Virgin Media. And I'm going like, this is so exciting. We're the better team. We're on top, and this is the team that people were tipping for the league in Pats, and like we're every bit as good as them.
Absolutely, I think when they're pulling Christy Forrester back from injury, forcing him to play, is a mark of respect for how we've done previously. And I said that to the lads prior to kick-off. I said for them to pull a player like that back into the team, because they're now fearing and respecting you. It's the respect you've earned and you deserve. There's no reason why we can't go to Lindsay Court and go and beat them. Like, if you have that belief that we go into every game to win, who can stop you? I
think one of the big things was being said as well before you arrived was there's just not enough goals in the team. We're seeing a bit more of that now. Obviously there's goals being scored, but if you look at the chances that are like that keeper for Pats last week pulled off a couple of wordies, Conan Noonan's bicycle scissors kick.
Unbelievable.
Do you think that, and obviously listen, this is all just hypotheticals, but do you think if a couple of more of them start going in, it's almost like the positive goal difference is just really going to start rising?
Yeah, I said to the manager last week, I said, some team's going to be on the end of an island from us. We're going to have that one game where you can't miss the goal. They're just going to flow, and hopefully that's sooner rather than later. But we're going to get as far as we can up until the break and up to the transfer window, and hope to bring some more players in that will help us towards that.
And obviously we can't get into specifics and stuff. I spoke about this with John as well, but it's for me as a fan looking at yourself and John, who were a scouting team together, and now you're our manager and assistant manager. Surely both of you got an eye for a player. So have you got some people maybe lined up that
we've got some ideas? It's enticing them over to Waterford, like even when I was a young lad and I was like, where's Sligo? What's Sligo? I mean, until I come here, you might have to educate some lads of the facilities that we've got, the type of football we're looking to play, the expanded, multi-club within Fleetwood. Of course, so there's a selling point there as well for maybe these young lads who are coming out of, 21s football or young pros that have possibly not made the grades at the bigger clubs. This is a platform. This league's a platform, and the league's trending now. It's the media presence of the leagues is brilliant, and that might be down to the fact Shamrock Rovers went so far in the Europa League. You've got Damien Duff now shouting his head off every week.
I think there's a couple of things,
and the exposure's brilliant. So I can't see why no player that we identify doesn't want to come here.
I think there's a couple of things. I think Rovers obviously going so far on the European stage. You have Bose with their hipstery kind of thing that they're doing, Fontaine's DC and all that nonsense. And you have, I work within the media myself as well outside of the club, and my friends in the media are saying, "Geez, Waterford are doing well," and that's something that just even I feel like even 5 years ago up to COVID that wasn't happening.
No,
it's an exciting time. But you said yourself, Danny, I think Waterford is a huge selling point as a club. The RSC on a match night when it's full, when it's rocking. I mean, there's not many places would rival it.
No, there wouldn't be. I say that's credit to the supporters. And hopefully that can grow, and we're always selling the stadiums out for the rest of the stadium. So, just keep coming and keep pushing us because we respect it.
And one thing I do ask a lot of the players and stuff like that when I talk to them on the podcast or I talk to them in the hospitality lounges, are you almost surprised when you saw the facilities that are on offer here? Like when you're talking about the SCTU Arena, the RSC itself, the back pitches to warm up beforehand and stuff like that. It's all there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. The infrastructure's brilliant, and I was surprised. I'm not going to lie, I was surprised. Because I go back again to when I was here with Sligo, we had nothing like that. There were sessions where we'd be training on a gravel car park, and running around Gaelic pitches and stuff in the woods and that. But you can't ask for anything more. Like the pitches are watered. There's 3 pitches to play on. You've got 3 high performance gyms. You've got the pools, the leisure centre. There's nothing you couldn't ask for anything more. So there's no excuse.
What's the plan? Like, what's the? I suppose is pushing for Europe a possibility? Do we think?
Of course it is. Yeah, you know, it's a 10-team league, so that's our plan. You know, mine and John's. We want to win every game that we're going into. You know, and your next game's always your most important one. So, you know, if we just take it game by game and we're scratching them off, hopefully we're in and around that come the end of the season.
Well, look, I think the mid-season break is maybe coming at a good or a bad time, who knows, but I think it's very exciting to look forward to the second half of the season when yourself and John can put your own stamp on the team.
Yeah, hopefully. I think it might be coming a good time, because a lot of these players have played a lot of minutes at the moment and the load's quite high and there's a couple of niggles here and there, but sometimes actually switching off from football completely can be refreshing, and then we can go and kick on and into the second half of the season and hopefully be successful.
Excellent. Well, look, we're all looking forward to it, Danny, and we're all very happy that yourself and John are here with us at Waterford. So best of luck for the second half of the season.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you, Danny.
Very much. Thanks, lads.